Good morning, children. Welcome to the session. So, we are discussing the English subject, first language English subject, lesson, fourth lesson, Louis Pasteur, Conqueror of Disease. And this is the fourth session. And whereas the previous session, up to 17 paragraph, we have discussed. Today, in the last period, we have discussed about the experiment done by Louis Pasteur, how he was able to show publicly regarding the inoculation method against the dreadful disease of anthrax, which is going to be a dreadful disease which is going to be killing so many of the cows, sheep, and of goats, particular because of that infection of germs. So that we have discussed how he was able to show the public of inoculating about the particular disease and germs, and successful in his experiment. So 18th paragraph, children, listen carefully, open your textbook, follow the lines of this 18th paragraph. Pasteur received many honors from the French government, and in 1881 he came to a big medical congress in London. So 1881, in 1881 he came to a big medical congress in London. Medical congress in London. Medical congress in London. When he walked down the hall, there was a storm of applause. He looked around, thinking that the cheers must be for some royal person. For Pasteur could hardly believe that the applause was meant for him. So when he was entering the hall of medical congress in London, so many of the audience were there in the particular hall, are going to be making a class for this great person, that is Louis Pasteur. But even he didn't know why this applause. He thinks that it may be for some other royal person. Later he came to know that the applause made by those audience because of his inventions and discoveries. So that is how he was simple, and he never proud of himself regarding his inventions and discoveries. So 19th paragraph, one of his last experiments was in a connection with the terrible disease which attacks a person who is bitten by a dog with rabies, a mad dog as we call it. So Pasteur's last invention, what he made was regarding the disease, that is dreadful disease of rabies. Rabies is a disease which occurs in dogs. That is a mad dog. So mad dog will become because of this infection of rabies disease. So when this mad dog is going to be bite another person, he also going to get a chance of this disease. So Louis Pasteur had grown very sure about the power of inoculation, and he decided to try out the same idea in case of rabies. What he has done in case of anthrax of inoculation, the same manner he is going to thinking about this rabies disease of inoculation. He decided to try out the same idea in case of rabies. At that time, nearly everyone died who was bitten by a diseased dog. In 1885, Pasteur made his first experiment on a young Alsatian boy who came to him in Paris covered with bites from a mad dog. So the first experiment which he made was on the boy was bitten by a mad dog in the year of 1885. that is of a young Alsatian boy. That is the first inoculation was done by this young Alsatian boy. What we call young Alsatian boy. That is in 1885. In 1885, the boy's mother told Pasteur, "If you can cure animals, you can cure my son." That is a challenge given by the mother of that boy to the Pasteur. That is what the mother said. If you can cure animals, you can cure my son. So Pasteur inoculated him with some weak rabies germs. The boy recovered. The same procedure he followed where he had made for anthrax disease. The boy recovered. Although Dr. Jenner had already discovered how to vaccinate against smallpox, he did not really understand about bacteria. Pasteur, after giving his life to this study, was able to prove the value of inoculation and find out ways of varying it for different diseases. That is, vaccines are given for some particular diseases, whereas the inoculation can be done for so many diseases. That is the main difference between vaccination and inoculation. Children, understand? Inoculation can be done for many diseases, whereas vaccination can be done for only few diseases. Okay. So, during the First World War, that is 1914 to 1918, the troops going abroad were inoculated against such diseases as typhoid and entrophic fever. So, during that war, that is so many soldiers are going to be infected, isn't it? So, during that situation, all these soldiers are suffered from typhoid and enteric fever. So, enteric fever means intestinal fever. And the very low death rate from these illnesses among the troops, even in unhealthy places, was a great tribute to Pasteur's work. These so many of soldiers' life will be saved by the method of inoculation, even in that particular situation of unhealthy places. The soldiers, that is the soldiers who are suffering from these diseases, will be given inoculation, and they served even they are serving in unhealthy places. Such a great tribute that Louis Pasteur given and his work that is regarding this inoculation. So Pasteur's memory is still honored in the Institut Pasteur in Paris, where bacteriology is studied by men of all nations. In the previous session, we learned that bacteriology, a branch of science, will be found by Louis Pasteur, and Institut Pasteur in Paris, it is going to be studied by so many of the people, students by different nations, or he said all nations. At the opening of this institution in 1888, Pasteur said, two opposing laws seems to me now in contest. So it is very important. At the opening of the institution in 1888, Pasteur said that two opposing laws seems to me now in contest. What are the two opposing laws? Let's understand. One law of blood and death, opening out each day new methods of destruction, forces nations to be always ready for the battle. The one is the regarding the soldiers, army, that is the law of blood and death, where the army people are going to be attacking the enemies, and he said this as a method of destruction, where so many of people are going to be die. Forces nations to be always ready for the battle, so where it has no way of surviving or saving the people. It is the law is totally of destruction, blood and what you call death. So blood and death. The another law, that is what he said, a law of peace, work and health, whose only aim is to deliver man from the disasters which surrounded him. That is the scientist's work and the soldiers' work. Here it is mentioned. Whereas the soldiers are fighting for the nation, in that fight, the results will be the death, and the results will be the blood, where the nation is going to be forcing the people to do that. Whereas the other law, the scientist's work, which is going to be giving the health, and the work will give a peace to the nation, and whereas the work of the scientists are going to be giving to the people best health against the disasters which are going to be surrounded the people and society. The one seeks violent conquest, the other relief of mankind. The one violent conquest, that is of warfare, the army and the fighting. The other relief of mankind, that is work of scientists. Which of these two laws will prevail, God only knows. But of this we may be sure that science, in obeying the law of humanity, will always labor to enlarge the frontiers of life. That is the speech given by the Pasteur at the opening ceremony of this institute. The next 23rd paragraph. Someone who knew Pasteur well in his old age described him thus: weary, with deep lines on his face, the skin and the beard both white, his hair still thick and nearly always covered with a black cap, the broad forehead wrinkled, marked with the lines of genius, the mouth slightly drawn by paralysis, but full of kindness, and above all, the living thought which still flashes from the eyes beneath the deep shadow of the eyebrows. So, one of the person, that is who knew well Pasteur in his old age, described him as a weary with deep lines on his face. Okay, next 24th paragraph. On Pasteur's 70th birthday, his jubilee was celebrated almost like a national festival. Like Lord Lister, he was honored in his old age by the scientists of all nations. At the crowded meeting in the great hall of University of Paris, the old man was to overcome to speak, and his speech was read to the distinguished audience by his son. So, Pasteur's son, on behalf of Pasteur, read that speech written by the Pasteur on a particular audience. The future, he said, will belong to those who shall have done the most for suffering humanity. To the young students, he addressed a special word. First, ask yourselves, what have I done for my education? Then, as you advance in life, what have I done for my country? So that someday that supreme happiness may come to you, the consciousness of having contributed in some measure to the progress and welfare of humanity. That is, in his speech, he advised the students of the giving contribution towards the nation, to the human society, will be the most important. And he encouraged those students to do for the country and serve for the society. And as the most, as he said that to give some measure, contribute some measure to the progress of welfare of humanity. So last paragraph, children. Pasteur himself certainly knew that happiness. He died in 1895 when he was 75. And no name in science is more honored or will longer be remembered. That is Louis Pasteur. So this is about the lesson Louis Pasteur, Conqueror of deceased children. The next period we discuss the another lesson. I hope you understood the lesson. See you, children.